now.
Take a page out of Kyrie's book. Sage the garden.
Smudge.
Yeah.
Sage?
Smudge.
Well, you use sage to smudge.
Are you
if I'm
saying
not
Megan Thee
mistaken.
Scallion? No, but I would do something. It's really strange.
You need the garden needs an exorcism.
It does.
Yeah.
They're 16-10 at home.
That's not good. Now
for
they
one of the
are
best teams in the league.
They showed this graph. I didn't realize this until I was watching the Cavs game the other night. They do have, in fairness to them, the best road record. They showed that graphic 18 million times during the game the other night. It beat it into my head.
So maybe they want to.
But they're 16-10 at home.
So then fall to the 5 seed. You'll never have home court in the playoffs, and then that's how you're going to win it.
I guess.
Yeah, I don't love that though. That's very strange because we've had the stat for a while that they already lost more home games this year than last year.
They've lost
that was like
more,
a month ago.
They've lost more games at home than Cleveland, obviously.
Yeah.
The Knicks, the Pacers,
it's
the
weird.
Bucks, the Magic. I mean, that's just in the Eastern Conference. Never mind if you go out west. So they're not defending their home floor. And I think it was pretty obvious last night. No Anthony Davis on the other side. Luka's long gone. They looked at it and said, I think they do this too often.
Mm-hmm.
They looked at it and said, let's roll the basketballs out. We're the better team. We just beat Cleveland. We beat Cleveland pretty handily. They have the best record in the league. We're at home. It's Dallas. It's the corpse of Klay Thompson. There's nobody else out there. Kyrie played poorly in the game. We're going to run him out of the gym. And instead, they got smoked. That's as bad of a defensive performance as you're going to see out of the Celtics. I think their defense has been a flaw all year. I don't know if it's their largest flaw, but last night was disappointing. Just when you thought they were getting their footing, beating Cleveland, getting some momentum, last night was disappointing, especially at home.
Yeah, and it was like the starters weren't really interested. And I thought at least Kyrie was playing, so wouldn't you be motivated against Kyrie? But I guess not.
I mean,
I'm with you. I think
fans were kind of half into it last night. I think the players are way past the Kyrie thing, to be honest.
Well, the players, there was never a thing.
Right.
There was only a thing when they played together, and then as soon as he left, they're like, "Oh, we love you." And I'm like, "What the hell?" Like, the fans don't like him, but then that was more for the finals. Last night, it was weird. It was like, all right, the trade deadline's over. Not that we expected the Celtics to do anything, but it was like the whole league just took like a breath. Like, okay, now these are what the teams are. Everybody, like, let's reset. And, the All-Star break's coming up. That's the other thing. It felt like these guys were, like, just ready for that and not locked in at all. And there's too many examples of playing down to the competition when either it's a bad team or it's a good team missing a star player. And I think if Davis was there and there's a little bit more hype around it, because I'm also surprised to see like a TNT game have that kind of performance. Usually those guys don't want like Barkley and Shaq.
It's the same thing they did against the Lakers a couple of weeks ago. The Lakers were I can't remember. Did Davis play in that game?
Probably not.
I'll pull it up. I don't think he did off the top of my head.
Either.
So that's another game where Anthony Davis was out on TNT. It's a good point by you. No, Davis played in that one.
Oh, he did?
So they were more at full strength, but still. It's Celtics-Lakers on national TV. You couldn't get up for that. And that was at Staples Center. This is a home game against the team in the NBA Finals a year ago that just made a massive deal, center of the NBA, and you can't get up for that game. And so, yeah, they've dropped some real head-scratchers this year. Houston at home. At least they're a good team. Dallas last night. We just mentioned the Lakers game. They've lost to Atlanta a couple of different times. They've lost to Toronto. They've lost to Sacramento. They've lost to OKC.
They've lost way more games than
Indiana,
I thought.
Philly, Orlando. Like, you look at Chicago, they dropped a game too, and you go, that's way too often to stub your toe, and most of those games are at home. So I know Wiggy's not concerned, Keefe.
No, not at all.
No individual team can take down the Celtics, which outside of OKC, I'm not sure I'd pick an individual team to take down the Celtics. But the field, you start looking at it and going, if you're going to stub your toe that often against such inferior opponents where, like last night, they're missing their best player, and where you can't defend your home court, I just don't feel very good about the way they're playing.
No, I don't know how you can. I think it's just you're basing everything off of last year or just overall talent, and you're saying it's going to win out. Because the way they're playing this year is not like it was a year ago. So this is always a fun exercise. So they, after last night's loss, fell to 36-16 on the season, right? 36-16. Last year, they were at one point 62-16. I mean, we're getting close to last year's loss total. They only lost 18 games all of last year.
So that's amazing. So they'll probably lose.
By the All-Star break.
Exactly. By the All-Star break, they'll probably have lost as many games as they lost all of last season.
So that's why it's hard for me to be like, no big deal. It's funny. So we always talk to Wiggy for 5 straight minutes before our show starts when they're in between shows. And he's like, yeah, I mean, they're pretty much like they were last year. And you were telling him, like, well, no, they're not. Well,
He's
they can be, but like they're not on pace. They're on pace for like mid-50s. He's like, okay, 55 wins. And you're like, well, they won 64 a year ago.
9 fewer
He's
wins
like,
than
that's
a year
not
ago.
much. Yeah. I'm like, well, that's like an eighth of the season that are all just L's.
That's quite a big drop. Now, look, they might overcome it. It might not matter.
No, you can't.
It may not matter. I acknowledge that.
There's a history of that in the NBA.
How do you not say they're way off their pace from a year ago? And that's not projecting. That's not saying they should have won 74 games and set the record. That's not projecting anything.
No.
It's just comparing them to last year, where I think they should be better than they were a year ago. But they're also, and they're worse.
Has to be a breaking point, I think, in our minds at some point. How many head-scratching regular season losses until you say, yeah, a team could beat them 4 out of 7 times?
What's their biggest flaw? If I had to ask you what their biggest flaw is, what is it?
I guess consistency, like that, or consistency meaning like just not playing their best every night.
That home record is a major red flag.
It's crazy to me.
It's a major red flag. It doesn't mean they won't win, but I don't know how you can just whistle past the graveyard on that. I think
that'll be interesting. You know what? Rich Keefe stats and info this weekend. Super Bowl, some other stuff. So they might be pretty busy. But what's the best or what's the worst road record to win the NBA title? Might be an interesting little. Yeah. What's the worst home record for a team that won the NBA title?
Dig in on that.
We'll see if they can work overtime.
Yeah, if you could.
Yeah.
I think their biggest flaw, and I've been saying this literally since the first game, is defense.
Yeah.
And I think that speaks to what you're talking about. They're not consistent. They're not locked in. They coast. And so I think it speaks to a bigger problem. But if you want to make it something tangible with the team, their defense is their biggest flaw. 617-779-7937.